It's officially done. Chaz Lanier has committed to the University of Tennessee. How does he make Rick Barnes' basketball team that much better in 2024, 2025? That and a whole lot more. It's your Monday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Kane. So happy to have you guys along for the ride here on this Monday morning. A happy Memorial Day to you and yours. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, maybe on your off day before you head out to a barbecue or to a function of your gathering of your choosing. But we're 5 days a week here on Locked On Vols, and appreciate you for making us your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. If you're watching on YouTube, as you can see, I'm still on the road. That is because Tennessee baseball has continued to stay around Hoover, and you guys know how I do this. I recorded the day before, and because I'm on the road and because there's a 3 p.m. Eastern Time baseball game and I'm 4 hours away from Knoxville, I needed to go ahead and get this recorded before the baseball game on Sunday. So I do apologize. I really, really do. Tennessee going for an SEC tournament championship on Sunday afternoon, and I'm recording this before that. So I'm going to talk about the tournament up to this point. Of course, we can talk and share stories if Tennessee wins the SEC tournament championship against LSU later in the week. Plus, we get to revenue share. Huge weekend for college athletics, dating back to Thursday night into Friday. We'll get at that later in the week. But on today's show, I'm going to talk a little bit about the SEC tournament segment 3. Ryan Shumpert of Rocky Top Insider is going to join the show in segment 2 to share his thoughts on Chaz Lanier. And then we're going to talk Chaz Lanier here in segment number 1 because that is the big story since we last spoke here on Locked On Vols. And, of course, you can watch us, listen to us, download us, subscribe to us, all that for free wherever you get your podcasts, and, of course, on the Locked On Vols YouTube channel. So, North Florida transfer Chaz Lanier. He has announced that he is choosing Tennessee. In fact, since he committed to Tennessee on, I guess it was Friday, Tennessee's already announced the signing of Chaz Lanier, which is huge. He's coming over from North Florida. He's picking Tennessee over Kentucky. He's picking Tennessee over BYU, and he's a shooting guard. He's the 4th player from the transfer portal that Tennessee has added, and he's joining, of course, Darlington Stone-Dubar, Felix Okpara, and Igor Milicic. And that's kind of comprising Tennessee's 4 transfer portal class. I'll tell you kind of where all those guys rank in the transfer portal rankings and kind of what each of them bring. But, for Lanier, he was that last missing piece to the puzzle, if you will. And Rod and I will talk about this more in segment number 2. He's from Innsworth High School, so he's a Tennessee native. And so that was the easy connection, whenever he announced after the basketball season that he was going to enter he announced, he said thank you to North Florida, essentially, and he didn't really announce what he was doing, but it certainly looked like from a social media post on Instagram that he was going to enter the transfer portal. And then he didn't. He just kind of hung around for a long time, and he said he was going to go through the NBA draft process and all that. And finally, a couple weeks after that post, he put his name officially in the transfer portal, but still going through the NBA draft process. He actually got an invitation to the NBA G League Elite camp, and he played a couple of games there. But obviously the feedback that he's gotten kind of said, hey, man, you could go back and use another year in college to try to up your stock. And so he was left with a choice. Do you want to go to a Tennessee that is proven, established, a contender each and every single year, having a Hall of Fame coach that prides itself on defense and playing the game the right way and playing the game a certain way at least? Do you want to go to a rebuilding Kentucky that has got a new head coach, kind of flipping that roster, top to bottom essentially, but is a proven power blue blood in college basketball and playing at Rupp Arena? I mean, that's got to be really, really enticing for a young hoopster, right? And then do you want to go to BYU, which offers kind of a unique blend of basketball and kind of what's going on over there, but obviously, name, image, and likeness, the potential there, the package is there, very steep at both BYU and Kentucky. As I'll speak well with Ryan here in a moment, I'm not going to act like I know all the dollar figures and everything. I have a pretty good handle on this one specifically, but, it's not my business to share. But nonetheless, I will say Tennessee came in 3rd in that race. And it's not like Tennessee wasn't competitive, but, BYU offered the moon, it feels like. And Kentucky offered a pretty good lump sum. And Tennessee's was competitive, but it wasn't in that ballpark of certainly BYU, and it was down below Kentucky, in my opinion, from what I've heard. But again, there's more to offer when you come to Tennessee and you want to play for Rick Barnes. And you can maybe get more out of that 1 year. Again, everybody's going to draw the parallel to Dalton Connect, and I continue to say, I'll speak with Ryan about it here in a moment and kind of get his thoughts. Nobody's going to be Dalton Connect, but you see what Dalton Connect did his 1 year here at Tennessee, and now he's going to be a lottery pick. Sure, he shot the daylights out of the basketball, especially on the road in games that come to mind, North Carolina and Auburn was at home, but so on and so forth. He was incredible, but he truly improved his draft stock process while coming here to Tennessee. And that's what Chaz Lanier is going to be trying to do. Chaz Lanier, okay, so what he did was at North Florida this past year, averaged 19.7 points per game, 4.8 rebounds per game, 1.8 assists per game, and a little over 33 minutes per game, shooting 51% from the field and 44% from three-point range. That's not bad. That is not bad at all. He officially removed his name from the NBA draft consideration May the 29th, towards the end of that process, or maybe that was the last day of that process, to retain his collegiate eligibility this year. At the G League camp, he measured in at 6'3", 6'9" wingspan, weighing 196 pounds. He had a vertical of 36 inches, a standing vertical of 30 inches. In 2 games at the G League Elite Camp, he scored 10 points in 33 minutes, 3 of 7 from the field, including 1 for 4 from downtown, added 5 rebounds, an assist, and 1 turnover. So that's kind of what he's been doing at the G League, camp. And when you look at who Tennessee's getting in this class overall to try to replace what Dalton Connect did, where he finished for a single season scoring for Tennessee at 780 points. That is second behind Allen Houston's 806 points in the 1990-1991 season. Obviously helped Tennessee get to the Elite Eight. He scored 39 or more points in 3 games, 35 or more points in 6 games, 30 or more points in 8 games, and 25 or more points in 13 games. So obviously a lot of production that is lost from, Dalton Connect going to the NBA. But how is Tennessee replacing that? Well, Chaz Lanier signs with Tennessee. He led all college basketball last season with an offensive efficiency rating of scoring 1.20 points per possession, averaging 19.5 points per game and 16.3 possessions per game. So let me say that again. It's a lot of numbers. Scored 1.20 points per possession, 19.5 points per game on 16.3 points per possession. In April, Hofstra wing Darlington Stone Dubar was added to Tennessee. He's the 4th most efficient scorer in college basketball last season. He averaged 1.15 points per possession, 17.5 points per game, and 15.2 possessions per game. So Tennessee has added the 4th most efficient scorer in college basketball in Darlington Stone Dubar. He's already been in the boat for a long time. And now Tennessee is adding Chaz Lanier, who led all of college basketball in offensive efficiency a season ago. So nobody, again, is going to be Dalton Connect. I'm not trying to say that anybody is going to be Dalton Connect, but Tennessee's done a pretty daggum good job of trying to replace him in terms of scoring production with a couple of household names. So Tennessee's transfer portal class is complete. 4 names. Again, Chaz Lanier, Felix Okpara, Darlington Stone Dubar, and Igor Milicic. You look at kind of where these guys ranked in the NCAA transfer portal rankings per the On3 industry ranking. Lanier was committed to Tennessee on Friday. He finished at number 8 in the NCAA transfer portal On3 industry rankings and number 9 in the On3 rankings. That's Chaz Lanier, so top 10. Felix Okpara finished number 55 overall in the On3 industry rankings, number 44 in the On3 rankings. Darlington Stone Dubar finished at number 63 in the On3 rankings, number 60 overall in the On3 industry rankings, and Igor Milicic finished 121st overall in the On3 rankings and 153rd in the On3 industry rankings. So obviously Chaz Lanier is the headliner here. He's a top 10 player per the On3 industry rankings in the NCAA transfer portal. And then you had some really, really nice, rim protector like a Felix Okpara, John Linson's Stubar that can stretch the field, play the wing. And then, of course, Igor Milicic is kind of like that stretch four as well. I really, really like what this Tennessee basketball team is going to look like in 2024. I do. 2024 and 2025. Will it be good enough to go on to the Elite Eight? I mean, only time will tell. I think it'll be very difficult, going off what this team did last year and what this team accomplished last year. But Rick Barnes has assembled a really, really, really nice roster to compete and to be one of the favorites in the Southeastern Conference entering the year, in my opinion. Now, how does it all come together? We'll have to see as they continue to do some basketball stuff over the offseason and in the summer and kind of get some word, from what's going on over there at the practice facility. I remember not this time last year, more in the summer, it was, word starting to leak out like, hey, this Dalton Connect cat, he's good. And obviously that turned out to be true. So Chaz Lanier finally commits to the University of Tennessee, and that is some really, really good news there to begin the weekend on a Friday evening there on Rocky Top. Hey, when we come back, we will check in with Rocky Top insiders Ryan Shumpert, get his thoughts on Chaz Lanier, all that and more. That is coming up next as we continue on here with a Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning a championship is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof rack, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money is back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep a ride or die alive today at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Motors. Guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Rocky Top Insider's Ryan Shumpert is coming up next as we continue on here with a Monday Locked On Vols. All right, here in the hallway at Hoover Metropolitan Complex. Here, Tennessee's about to get going here in the semifinal round. But they want to catch up with Ryan Shumpert, Rocky Top Insider. Tennessee finally gets it done. It's official. Chaz Lanier is going to be part of the men's basketball program moving forward. He was kind of that missing link, that final link to an offseason that's been pretty fruitful for Tennessee.
Yeah, no doubt. It felt like all the other additions that they've had were good. They filled needs, but there was one big need left to be filled, and Chaz Lanier just does just that. And I think most highly touted, the guy to be most excited about in this transfer portal class, and a guy that Tennessee's had interest in for a while. So it was a long recruitment, kind of one that people had to wait out. But he went on the visits last week, and then to the week or early this week, I guess, and last weekend, and then Tennessee's able to get things locked up and get things done pretty quickly afterwards.
So I mean, again, like you mentioned, this has been going on for quite some time. So we've had a chance to dive into the stats, kind of know about the player, but more than just the scoring and all that, what does he bring to this roster that now has a very veteran backcourt and Zakai Zeigler? It's got some guys you're excited about, newcomers in the front court, and Jabon Meshack. What is Lanier going to bring to this group?
I think the big thing is just another guard that can create his own shot. I mean, you have Zakai Zeigler, who should be one of the best point guards in the country this season, but with his size, he's not really going to be, a go-to scorer himself. And I think he got a lot of talented pieces around them with some of the guys they brought in. And certainly Tennessee hopes a guy like Cam Carr and Jordan Gainey can make a second-year jump in the program. But Lanier's a guy that can create his own shot off the dribble, can get to the basket. And obviously, like you said, the shooting is very evident. So it's a potential really high-level perimeter scorer to go along with Zeigler. And when you look at his addition with what everybody else has done, I think it just fits exactly into how you'd want to build a roster around Zakai Zeigler, with a lot of guys that can space the floor and then a really good lob threat in Felix Akpara.
I'm not going to act like I know the specific dollar amount for everything, but I mean, what we do know, and we both agree on, that Tennessee came in third in terms of the dollar figure for what could be offered for name, image, and likeness. BYU was at the top. I think Kentucky was right there. And then Tennessee, there was a gap there, and Tennessee was third. What's it say that Lanier wants to go to Tennessee, for less money, knowing that maybe he won't have the NBA future that he wants, but that Tennessee maybe offers that better opportunity to get that NBA future?
Yeah, I think it speaks a lot about, Lanier and his family. I'm sure, his agent, as any agent would be pushing him for him to take the most amount of money, and the relationships went out in this one. And, it kind of felt a little bit like an old school recruiting battle, I guess, in that way. And, it seemed like his mom really liked Rick Barnes, really liked the staff, and Lanier really liked Rick Barnes and the staff. So, the whole time I think there was a lot of respect from Tennessee's camp towards Chaz and his family, the way they handled everything. They were very upfront. There was a lot of constant communication about what they were going to do to visits. They had asked to be the last visit. Chaz and his family honored that, and it it says a lot about what's most important to Lanier, and certainly he sees a fit on the court, a fit off the court, and a chance to be able to play in his home state that I think was all really, really intriguing to him.
For that stock, that individual stock for him, how can he better himself here in Tennessee? Is it strictly just defense, or what else?
Well, I think it's a lot of the same things you'd say about Dalton Connect, where it's proving it at an SEC level, proving it against much better competition. And for him, it's kind of, and this is a little bit of the same way with Connect, but not quite as dramatic. It's proven it another year. He had such a big breakout in his senior year at North Florida, so it's doing that. It's showing the athleticism to be able to finish at the basket, and that he can do more than shooting. Because you got to know the shooting numbers are shooting numbers wherever you play.
Yeah.
That's always going to translate. But Tennessee he'll look to show he can score at the basket at the SEC level, and then defensively, I think is a good point too. He's not a great defender by any means. I think I was looking at Evan Miyakawa, his DBPR ratings to look at individual basketball player defensive ratings, and Dalton's in his last year at Northern Colorado was worse than Chaz Lanier's was last season. So certainly there's work to do there, but there's no reason to think that he can't improve his stock and be a capable defender like Connect was by the end of the season.
Kind of on that note, I mean, it's hard not to mention Chaz Lanier in the same breath as Dalton Connect, not because of what he's accomplished on the court, or that's to be continued, but it's Connect was the guy last year. Nobody really knew who Connect was until he started putting on a show. Do you think that there's going to be some obvious pressure for Chaz Lanier to kind of live up to that hype here at Tennessee? Because everybody, every time he has a missed shot or a rough game, is going to say, oh, well, he's no Dalton.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is going to be certainly a pressure, and I think most people understand that he's not going to be Dalton, and that's an unfair standard for anyone to have. But yeah, I'm sure there will be some people, and especially just the way the recruitment's gone. It's been such a high-profile recruitment, and for Tennessee to beat out Kentucky is a big deal. Not to beat out anyone for Kentucky, let alone a guy that Tennessee's going to expect a lot of. So yeah, there's going to be some of that. But Tennessee, I'm sure he's aware of that too. I'm sure Tennessee was using what they did for Dalton Connect as a pitch in the recruiting trail, and he knows that Tennessee's looking for not Dalton Connect 2.0, but a guy that can do some of the same things Connect did.
Tennessee basketball got better over the weekend as Chaz Lanier officially commits to the University of Tennessee on Friday. We are in Hoover. The tournament is still ongoing, kind of pre-taping this before Monday, but regardless of what happens with Tennessee baseball on Saturday, maybe even Sunday, it feels like Tennessee's in a really good spot. Earlier on Saturday morning, D1 Baseball had them the number one overall seed in the latest Field of 64 projections. Looks like Tennessee's obviously a top 8 lock. Could have went home early, but won 2 games with their backs against the wall, and feels like this team's kind of rolling on into regional play.
Yeah, definitely good to have some mojo winning some games. And then, you talk about the pitching test, what Tony talked about wanting to achieve this week. I expect we'll see A.J. Russell again today for a second time this week, which I think is big, just for him to get, again, as many reps in game as possible before the NCAA tournament. And, Tennessee probably hopes that if a regional goes perfect for him next week, they probably won't have to use him in a massive spot. But to build all those reps and it not be completely new will be big for Tennessee. So you like that. You like what Andrew Binky gave Tennessee against, I guess it was Mississippi State on Friday night. And, we'll see maybe if a Marcus Phillips, a Dylan Lloyd, some of those other guys that were kind of fringe arms can turn in some strong appearances the rest of the weekend if they get opportunities.
All right, a final segment left here on this Monday morning to conclude a little Locked On Vols here on this Memorial Day Monday. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. Okay, so as I said, obviously I'm recording this podcast before Tennessee is trying to win its 5th SEC Tournament Baseball Championship. It's kind of been a wild ride. You look at the week, of course, Tennessee entered the SEC Tournament as the number 1 seed, so it got past that play-in round of single eliminations on Tuesday, and then it started with the other top 4 seeds on Wednesday, and that's the double elimination round. And the way this bracket works out, Wednesday through Friday's double elimination, you get to the semifinal round on Saturday. That goes back to single elimination. And then, of course, the championship game on Sunday, single elimination as well. Tennessee did not start off well. And, we talked a little bit about this on Friday's show. I mean, you're trying to line up your pitching and all that and trying to, essentially you treat it like a midweek game on the mound. And that's what Tennessee did on Wednesday. And it took one to the chin, man. 13-4 was the final against Vanderbilt. So Tennessee was kind of behind the 8 ball. From the get-go on Wednesday, and was just one loss away from heading home. And as we talked about on Friday's show, it's really not the end of the world in my opinion. However, And Tennessee rallied. Not only did Tennessee lose, the other 3 top 4 seeds lost on Wednesday as well. So it wasn't just Tennessee, but Tennessee rallied, man. Tennessee came back and defeated Texas A&M by a score of 7-4 on Thursday. Tennessee came back and defeated Mississippi State in a fiery game late, 6-5, that saw a couple different lead changes. And man, that was a really, really good ball game. And then Tennessee outlasted Vanderbilt 6-4 in a Saturday semifinal game where Tennessee took an early lead, led 2-0, and then Xander Seacrest, who was phenomenal in this game, had one mistake, and I don't even really want to call it a mistake, really. I mean, he just you had Holcomb for Vanderbilt that just hit a fly ball, and it just carried and carried and carried, and it left the ballpark. I mean, we're sitting on press row, nobody thought that was going to be a home run off the bat, but I mean, it is hot, it is muggy, it is sticky down here in Hoover, and that ball just carried and carried and carried, and ultimately it was, tied ball game at 2 runs apiece. And then Tennessee opened the scoring up in a big way there, midway through, scored a run on a sacrifice fly, and then Christian Moore had a 3-run home run, led 5-2, and then ultimately Xander bowed out after 6 innings, and he was phenomenal. Gives the ball to Marcus Phillips, and Marcus Phillips, a guy that we heard so much about coming into the season, junior college transfer, a guy that a lot of players said had the nastiest stuff on the staff. Thought he was going to be a big player for this bullpen for Tennessee. It just hadn't turned out that way. I mean, he's had some moments. He came in and collected the final out against Kentucky on the road, and that was huge to preserve a series win. I mean, that was a huge, huge moment. He's had some other moments where he's helped out a little bit, but he was called on in a game where it's do or die, right? You got to win, you got to hold this lead, or you're going to go home and bow out of the SEC tournaments. And he came through in a big way. Entered in the 7th inning, he was pumping 100 miles an hour. He was fired up, got him 1-2-3. In the 8th inning, got into some trouble. Allowed a run to score, allowed the tying run to reach base, but ultimately was able to get out of the bases loaded jam in the 8th to preserve a 3-run lead. Entered the 9th inning with a 3-run lead, allowed another run to score, but again, the tying run at the plate and a runner on third, able to get out of it to get out number 3 and secure the victory, his 3rd save of the season, and a career-long relief effort for Marcus Phillips in 3 innings. So it was really, really good to see what Marcus Phillips could do on Saturday in the big stage. And I mean, Christian Moore was incredible. Of course, Xander Seacrest was really, really phenomenal in that game. That's 2 back-to-back starts. That's consecutive starts for Xander Seacrest where he's been really good for Tennessee. And boy, is he peaking at the right time as Tennessee's heading into regional play. And again, games that truly, truly matter. So it's been a fun weekend, man. I will say it's been a tough week for Billy Amick. And again, this is heading into Sunday's game. So, hopefully he can get out of it on Sunday's game. But I believe he was, entering Sunday's game. I think he was like 0 for 17 in this week. And he's been down a little bit, the last couple of weeks. And there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. And I'm talking with one of my buddies, big UT baseball fan, and he's just like, they need to bench him. They need to bench him. They need to bench him. Well, I mean, he's going to be a first-round draft pick in June. So I'm probably not going to bench the first-round draft pick. However, I mean, I do recognize he's in a slump right now, and that's baseball. And you got to try to work out of that slump. So I'm all for if this slump continues, maybe toying with the idea of moving Billy Amick down in the order. I'm totally fine with that because right now you're hitting 3rd, and that's not where you want a slumping slugger to be hitting right now. Now Tennessee's already kind of toyed with the lineup a little bit in recent weeks and moving Kavaris Tears down in the order, and Hunter Ensley and Dylan Dreiling up in the order. So I'm not really sure what the move would be if you're going to move Amick down. You just really want him to come out of that slump, in my opinion. So hopefully he does. It's been a really, really tough week for him. In Saturday's game, they allowed him just to hit. They were, just saying, hey, concentrate on hitting. And he did hit the ball better, I thought, in that game than he had really all week long. He didn't have a hit, but he drove the ball pretty well into center field on one play. And, the shortstop, I don't want to say robbed him, but made a really, really good play to get him at first on a ball that was stung to short in that game. But one time with runners on base, he popped up, and that was a huge loss. And then another time with runners on base, he struck out. So hopefully Billy Amick can kind of move past that and kind of break out of that slump. One of the more fiery moments, I'll kind of end this on this note. One of the more fiery moments of the tournament came on Friday night, and Tennessee was making a pitching change. It was a 5-run, I believe, 6th inning. There's been a lot of baseball this week, guys. It was a 5-run 5th inning against Mississippi State. And Drew Beam, who was really, really good in that game, was starting to get tagged a little bit. Ball game was tied at 3-3, runners on base. Tennessee late to get Drew Beam out of the ball game because, Tennessee staff didn't have anybody warming in the bullpen, and they go to make a move, and I have no idea how it started, but I don't know if, Tony started it or if Mississippi State's dugout started it or whatever, but I do know, there's video evidence of Tony like listening and seeing something from the Mississippi State dugouts and then reacting to it, saying something back. And oh boy, that did not sit well with an assistant coach. I believe it was the top, I don't have his name here, but the top assistant coach for Mississippi State had to be physically restrained as he was coming out of the dugout and trying to get to that mound, where Tennessee was. And, you had players and coaches step in there, and Tony didn't move, but Cal Stark, Christian Moore, and Blake Burke, all three walked towards the Mississippi State dugout, and umpires and players and coaches had to separate everybody, so nothing ended up happening. But, Christian Moore took his hat off and slung it down in his glove, and he was ready to fight. And I like SEMO, and I love that attitude on my team. But, if we're going by the rule book here, 100% the Mississippi State assistant coach should have been tossed from the game. You were having to be physically restrained from getting to Tony Vitello. And I don't understand how he was not ejected from this baseball game, but whatever. But if we're going by the same rule book, Christian Moore should have been tossed too. Thankfully, nobody was tossed because I don't think Mississippi State nor Tennessee for sure would want Christian Moore to miss any games. Potentially the first game of regional, that would have been horrific. So thankfully, cooler heads prevail. But that was a fiery moment. And Drew Beam, who's about as cool, calm, and collective, you can see video. He was, the outfield was running in because it looked like we're going to have a little Donnybrook there, right? The outfield was running in, and Drew Beam was waving him back out there saying, stay, stay, stay. But when he was coming off the mound, man, he was pumping up the home crowd. I guess technically Tennessee was the away team that night. I don't remember. He was pumping up the Tennessee fans, behind the third base dugout, and he was fired up, just fired up. And later in that game, it was Blake Burke in the eighth inning. His home run was the winning run where Tennessee won 6-5. So I say all that to say, entering Sunday, Tennessee, of course, by D1 Baseball, by Baseball America, for the past couple of days, they've been the projected number 1 overall seed, which I don't know if you really want that, but it's going to happen come Monday, and we'll talk about it on Tuesday's show. When the field of 64 is officially announced, Tennessee will be the number 1 overall seed. I don't think anything that happens Sunday is going to, have that because Kentucky is not playing this game. LSU's not going to be the number 1 overall seed. So I think Tennessee's going to be it. But I say all this because Tennessee's matchup, potentially, Tennessee's region would be matched up with the Starkville region for Supers. And say it holds true that way, and Tennessee were to win their regional and advance on to Supers, and Mississippi State would able to win their regional and advance on to Supers. That's if they get that last regional host bid, and that's a big topic of debate right now. But they're slated as of Sunday morning. They're slated in there to be hosting as a 16th seed. But anyway, if that all held true, could you imagine Mississippi State coming back to Tennessee for Supers? Woo! Woo! It'd be fiery, baby. Sign me up for that. But intrigued to see what Tennessee looks like here on a Sunday for the SEC tournament championship game, looking to go and win their 5th tournament championship in program history. It's been a really, really fun week in Hoover. I'm ready to get home, but it has been a fun week in Hoover. I'm super, super blessed to be here and to be able to do this for a job. It's awesome. Later on this week, we'll talk revenue share, what's going on, the bigger picture of college athletics. We'll talk with Josh Ward. We'll recap a little bit from the 865 Live event over the weekend. And, of course, we'll take your questions on tomorrow's show for Twitter Tuesday. That and a whole lot more coming up tomorrow on Locked On Vols. Thank you guys so much for being here. You guys are the best. Shout out everydayers, and we'll do it again tomorrow. This is Locked On Vols.